Hey guys, JB here discussing PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, which just came to the Xbox One preview program. Of course, we all already knew about PUBG since it absolutely exploded through early access on Steam. It sold like 20 million copies. It reached the absolute peak for concurrent players on Steam. So unless you've been living under a rock, you absolutely know about this. It's all over Twitch, all over YouTube. It's just simply exploded. But all along, being a mostly console-focused gamer, I know you guys have seen me play PC here on the channel, whether it be Fallout or Mass Effect more recently. I was wondering, is this coming to console? Because a lot of my friends, my close buddies that I like to play with are console gamers, and I knew I wouldn't be able to experience this with them if I was just going to play on PC. Lo and behold, at E3 this past year, which I was at, we saw at the Xbox press conference, at the very end, I believe it was, that, PUBG was coming to Xbox One as an exclusive later this year, and now it's that time. So I jumped into it. I've played a few hours up to this point, and I just wanted to share my impressions of PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds on the Xbox One. And I'm sure you could already tell from the title that it's a bit of a mess. It's a buggy mess. And the number one thing that jumped out to me when I first loaded this up was it's very unoptimized. It doesn't feel like it belongs on a console. And I know, a few seconds ago I just said I wanted it on a console because I want to experience it. Yes, but at the same time, it would have been nice for them to spend a significant amount of time kind of making this a game that feels like it should be on a console. Right now, it feels like the Dark Souls ports, but in reverse. Like they took it from the consoles and then put it onto PC. Then when you try to play it on PC, you've got literally the console buttons on the screen. Now, it's not actually like that because they did map over the controls, but they are awful on Xbox One. And primarily one thing that really bugs me is the map and how you control that. So if you go ahead and click the two squares button, that's what I call it. I know that's not officially what it's called, and you pull up the map. In order to zoom in, you use the D-pad, and in order to pan around the map, you hold RB and right stick, and the left stick is completely useless when you're navigating the map, which is absolutely insane. Another thing that a lot of people have been complaining about, which is completely valid, is the lack of aim assist. It is something you really do need on console because with a controller, we are limited. This is coming from a primarily console gamer, and I know PC, Master Race over there is just laughing it up, but for real, we do need some aim assist here. Almost every single other game has it. I've seen the comparison made to Rainbow Six Siege, which does not have aim assist, and that's okay for that game because it's in 60 FPS. It's much more smooth, and so you can make those more finite movements when you have more FPS. But when we're talking about PUBG, which runs at sub 30 FPS. I mean, it really struggles. That's something else we're about to talk about. It doesn't run very well. It is just hard as hell to aim in this engine on a console. Just difficult. And I know that's probably not a priority for the developer, but I feel like there needs to be some kind of aim assist if this is going to be, successful long-term on the console. I know their priority is most certainly on PC. That's where more of the players are going to be. That's kind of where this game grew in the first place. Next up are some of the other controls, like reloading, for example, is kind of awkward. You have to double tap X, and then interacting with any kind of door or anything like that is also just single tap X. And so that's probably more of something I just need to get used to, but I found that a little unintuitive, especially when a lot of buttons aren't being used. The inventory management is very janky. Again, back to the port kind of conversation. It truly feels like a port because this needs to be redone for a console. It just doesn't work very well. I feel the same way about Fortnite actually as well. I don't think either of these games handle inventory management well on this platform. Something I've seen other people complain about, which I don't necessarily agree with, is the aiming system. So as we know, PUBG is third person, right? And then if you hold down the left trigger like you would in any other third person game on a console, you're going to slightly aim in a little bit. You're not going to go completely ADS. But on the Xbox One, you double tap the left trigger and that'll bring you ADS. And that kind of makes sense because you want to have options in this kind of hybrid third person, first person game but I also believe there should be an option in the settings to force, first-person perspective. I think there should be one that allows you to only go in the third-person little zoom, and then only go in first-person exclusively, and then the one that's currently in the game, which allows you to double tap in order to go into first-person. Just offering more options in that respect, I think, could go a long way for a lot of console gamers. And then finally, just the overall stability in the way the game runs. It's very clear from the moment that you boot it up that this does not run well for some reason on the Xbox One. When you first go into a match and you're on the plane, it takes forever for even the plane textures to pop in. When you're floating down to the ground in the giant 5x5 kilometer or mile, I don't know how big it is, map, which is insane, by the way, absolutely massive. So I get why it takes forever, because there's no loading screens. But at the same time, from a user, player experience perspective, it's really annoying to have it, take sometimes 30 seconds to a minute in order for everything to actually load in and pop in. I've found myself floating down in a parachute and landing on what appears to me to be a white blob and wondering, why can't I move? Only for it to pop in several, 20 seconds later, and then, oh, I'm stuck inside of a rock or something like that. So that's something that, happens far too often. Of course, I expect a natural response from a lot of you to be, this is an early access game that just came to a new console, new platform. It's going to be buggy. And I understand all of that, but I also understand, unless I'm sorely mistaken, that the game isn't like much better on PC. Obviously, the frames are much higher. It probably runs more smoothly, a little more intuitive on the controls, but this is a very rough early access game that's garnered a ton of popularity. Like, it's exploded, as I've explained. And also 1.0, the update, pretty much the launch update, is going to be on December 20th. That's only a week away. And so unless we're going to see some massive sweeping changes, this really is PUBG. So those are pretty much my rambly first impressions on PUBG. If you care about a super stable kind of experience from a game, you're not going to get it from early access PUBG on Xbox One. It's really a buggy mess. I will say it's definitely fun. It's a fun experience with friends. This is just not a game I would play by myself and find enjoyment out of, and I think that's also probably the case if it was more polished. It's just that kind of game for me, but I think you can find some enjoyment if you have a solid group of friends that you enjoy playing multiplayer games with. That's it for today's video, guys. In the comment section below, tell me what you think about PUBG on Xbox One, if you've gotten the chance to play it, if you're considering playing it, any kind of thoughts in that vein, share them in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video, remember to hit that like button and subscribe for more commentaries like this. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll talk to you next time.